How did you get into golf?
Just the challenge of watching it.
Yeah.
When we got married and he started getting invited to all these golf tournaments, and I'm like, well, wait, I want to go too. So he goes, well, you gotta play more. And so we started playing more so we could spend time together.
Oh, I love that.
It really is a great escape.
When you walk and you see this view, it's just take a deep breath and enjoy it.
And here comes the sun.
There, look at that.
Yeah,
See?
it broke through.
I mean,
Just because they have a home in Pebble Beach doesn't mean life always has been a day at the beach for Ron and Stephanie Rivera.
You guys met at Cal,
Yes.
and what year was that?
1983. There's a place at Cal, and every time we go back to campus, we go there. It's called Yogurt Park. And as I'm looking through the glass, I see her.
I'd seen him on campus. I figured he's a football player because he's wearing the free gear. He walks in and finally introduces himself. I didn't even know his name.
On our first date, the first thing she says, so do you play? Are you a starter?
He was a big man on campus. I had no clue.
It was funny. I mean, I just kind of thought to myself, she's been under a rock, I guess.
Well, because you were wrapped up in your own, athletics, right? As the point guard on the basketball team.
We started dating. His senior year was just incredible, and I'm like, oh, you're pretty darn good.
So you met in July, and you got engaged very quickly after,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Christmas that year.
Hey, when you know, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
After being named Pac-10 Defensive Player of the Year in 1983, Rivera was drafted by Chicago. He spent 9 years with the Bears and was part of a Super Bowl winning team in 1985.
When I retired, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Worked in real estate. Two things that had happened that really catapulted me into coaching. One was coming home one day after a long day at the office, trying to do the real estate thing. And she looked at me and said, I know you're not happy. You need to get back into football. You have no structure in your life. At the time, I was doing radio and TV covering the Bears. I was standing next to Walter Payton, and they were opening up with Dallas. And we watched this play happen. Emmitt Smith had rushed for 12 yards on this particular play. And when the series was over, they'd come to the sideline, and I was listening to the coaches rehash that play with the players. And he said something to the player, and I said to Walter, so I wouldn't have told him that. I'd have told him do this, this, and this, and this. Walter goes, really? I said, yeah. So Dallas goes back out on offense, and I said to Walter, watch. They're going to come down this way again. They're going to run that same outside zone. Emmitt's going to turn up, and he's going to get about another 12, 15 yards. And Walter looked at me and goes, how come you're not coaching? I said, I want to get into it. He goes, really? So he says to me, he goes, well, why don't you come see me tomorrow? At the time, Walter was on the board of directors.
Peyton made a phone call. One thing led to another, and in 1997, Rivera began his odyssey as an NFL coach.
When he decided to get into coaching, and he was, number one, worried about, well, if I'm going to get into coaching, we're probably going to have to move a lot. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I get that because, he was a military brat. So I'm like, why are you worried about moving? Because you did that growing up.
It's a heavyweight fight. It's all about body blows. They can't run the ball against us. First and 10.
By Ron's count, he and Stephanie have lived in 11 different homes.
Oh, there he is.
One of them, while he was head coach in Carolina, nearly burned down. Later that year, Ron's Panthers went 15-1 and earned a trip to the Super Bowl.
Are you serious for the touchdown?
In the Super Bowl, the things that happen, you struggle with. I still struggle with it.
What do you mean by that? You still struggle? You think about it?
Yeah, it really does leave a bad taste in my mouth.
In the pocket is Newton. Ball's knocked out of his hands. It bounces around. And I think Denver's got it.
Unbelievable. I really felt like I let a lot of people down more than anything else.
If there's anyone who can understand the highs and lows of a coaching life, it's Stephanie Rivera.
Hey, babe, you still got your ID on?
I know.
Because she has coached basketball at various levels, up to being an assistant with the Washington Mystics of the WNBA.
She's been a voice I've leaned on, and I trust her. And she has an opinion that's a little bit different, but it's valuable. People have asked, who's a better coach, and you have said?
I'm the better coach.
Yeah?
I'm the better coach because I could work with third graders, to professionals. Ron's a little too advanced for third graders, okay? But who's a better leader? There's no doubt. He can lead these men in all different situations.
It's an honor to serve as a coach in the NFL.
That's likely the reason he was chosen to be the head coach in Washington. His first season there began during the COVID pandemic. In training camp, he learned of another challenge.
They take the biopsy, and the pathologist went right next door to his office, and within 5 minutes came back and said, "You have cancer."
And you're sitting by yourself. Are you with him?
No, I wasn't.
She was still out here, and I knew she was coming back in a few days. So I waited.
Yeah.
How many days were you sitting with this information by yourself?
That I had cancer, I think it was like 4, right?
You know, unfortunately, you know, his brother passed from pancreatic, but we've had so many friends that have battled all these different cancers and survived. So I'm waiting to hear what kind.
It was in the neck and in one of my lymph nodes. We found it early. It's very treatable and it's very curable. But the next hardest thing was I was going to have to tell my mom. And she shouldn't have had to go through it twice. That was the hardest thing. You know, because she lost Mickey, and we, you know, and to tell her was, that's what I was afraid of the most. But what was interesting was, told her, then I told my dad, and he goes, "Oh, you're going to be fine."
No.
I started thinking, wait a minute, that's kind of a funny response. Well, I found out that he had had cancer, and he had never told any of us.
What?
No, because, you know.
He had cancer and never told you guys?
No, you know, he was in the military, and Mom and Dad didn't want to worry anybody. He had found out he had prostate cancer, and he had gotten it because of Agent Orange. He said, "Ronnie, just gotta go through your treatments. Do what the doctors tell you. You'll be fine."
Ron Rivera's full intention right now is to coach this team himself. He is going to undergo outpatient treatment, a combination of proton therapy, which is a form of radiation, as well as light chemotherapy.
Was there a time, Stephanie, where you're like, you shouldn't be doing this? Why are you continuing to coach, or did it not even enter your mind?
It didn't enter my mind because that was what was motivating him to continue his treatment. I think if he just came right home every day, that would have kind of reminded him that he is sick and just brought him down.
That was one of the questions we asked was, well, can I work? "Oh, you should." So as soon as he said that, you should. I said, okay. He said, yeah. He said, you know, we've had people that don't stay active, that don't eat properly, end up in the hospital. And I'm thinking to myself, so I have to.
Yeah.
You know, I got to, I must.
Good to see you. Yeah, how are you? How you feeling?
I'm doing pretty good.
How's that whole thing going?
Good. You know, I'm very fortunate. We got it early. It's a highly treatable.
No doubt.
Got a lot of positive things going on with it. So.
Awesome. Good to hear. Of course. Good to hear. Huge fan of yours. That's
How
awesome.
sick did you feel?
There were times when I felt like I was just, you know, I couldn't eat, but I had to eat, but I wanted to go throw up. When I started, I was in the 260 range, and by the time I was going through it, at my low point, I got down to about 232.
Traditionally, you're here till 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. I hit 5 o'clock and I got to go home. The fatigue really, it's like I said, you know, I told my wife, it's like having a 300-pound gorilla on your back.
Wonderful moment. Ron Rivera was surprised by his wife, Stephanie, and the entire organization with 450 cutouts of family and friends supporting his cancer battle. And Ron Rivera was touched by the gesture.
It was really cool to come out early and see the tribute. It was very poignant at one point because my brother that passed away, they had his picture in the collage. So that was really cool.
I'm sure you always felt your brother's presence with you.
I did feel Mickey's presence. I struggled with it initially because, you know, people talk about survivor guilt. And why me and not Mickey? That was always hard for me to deal with. And I know as I went through this, I wasn't alone because of him. And I think that was part of the thing that helped motivate me too, was his memory, was I was going to fight through this, and I wasn't going to put my mom through, you know, losing another son. I just couldn't.
Yeah.
The doctors were at the end shocked by how well he did.
Yeah.
This is what was crazy.
It really was. Both doctors said the same thing. Ron, I got to tell you what you did. Coach was amazing. I said, really? He said, yeah, I mean, you know, you're not missing a game. I know you missed a couple practices, but you were always there, and you always, you know, it was an inspirational thing. I said, well, doctor, I thought I was supposed to do this. He said, oh, no. He said, you could have taken a week or two off if you had to.
You're like, you told me to go to work.
Yeah,
This is my work.
Hey, an inspiration. A lot of people.
No, I appreciate
I know you hear
that.
that a lot, but I'm just telling you, it's the truth.
The biggest thing, as they said, is, Ron, we're amazed because most of our patients are either in the hospital or on feeding tubes by the last few weeks.
Or they have to take time off.
And that he was able to still coach was amazing.
In one of the strangest years in NFL history, the Washington football team has won the NFC East.
Ron Rivera, that is just amazing.
It's been tough, it's been hard, it's not been simple. But you persevered, you've done what people didn't think you could do. And it's just the start of who we can be.
The one thing about having gone through all this, you know, we've been married a long time, and we've had our ups and downs, our rough patches. Everybody has a chapter that's tough. We've had some, and we've gone through it, we've persevered. You think about when you get married and you hear those, for better or worse, for sickness or health. And I told her it was amazing, because you realize that those really do mean a lot. I knew I wasn't alone.
You're the ultimate teammates. All right, should we go golf?
Yeah.
All right, let's go golf.